Hello, everybody, and welcome to Clubs Off with David Singer. I'm David Singer, and today as a special guest, I have Mayor Extraordinaire, Eugene Flinn, who, by the way, was mayor for Palmetto Bay for 3 terms.
3 terms, 3 wonderful terms of great progress. But how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I am doing absolutely phenomenal.
Thank you for having me here today.
Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
I think this could be the first time I've had you.
No.
Oh, I've had you before.
Yes.
Okay. There we go. No, you were here. You were here prior
might be my
to this.
3rd time.
Not with me. With me, you were here one time at the start in 2020, and then I haven't had you here in 4 months. I think you were here in May or
I'm sure
December.
You're getting antsy about that. You know?
I am. By the way, anybody who wants to send any questions to either myself or Mayor Flinn, please feel free. We'll try to answer as many questions as we possibly can.
And like some other groups do, we cross-reference the names with the voter rolls to make sure they're real people.
Yes, right. Whatever the hell that means.
Yeah, well, that's
anyway. I gotta read the disclaimer. You want to pull the disclaimer up? Okay, here we go. My disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed here are those of the host and guest and not necessarily those of community newspapers. And that's usually on here because community newspapers' opinions are usually wrong. So that is it.
Is that opinion or fact?
That's a fact of an opinion.
Okay,
anyway, so let's get down to the nitty gritty here.
Wait, but before you get to all that, okay. Today, you know what today is, right?
It's National
Earth Day.
Earth Day.
So happy Earth Day.
Thank you.
51 years of Earth Day, and we're a few years short of 4.5 billion years, if you believe one source, 10,000 if you believe the far right.
No, what's funny is, I was explaining to my son the other day that if you look at a clock on the wall and the Earth's been around for 60 minutes, that man has only been here for like a minute of those 60 minutes. And I think that's pretty accurate if I remember my old science classes.
And look at the impact we've had on.
Yeah, we've destroyed. We've done nothing but that. We are locusts. It's funny because people say no, we're not locusts. We have a tendency of sitting there
dominion over the earth.
Yeah, we have the tendency to move someplace, destroy it, then move on to the next place and destroy it. And next, that I would not say that the majority of mankind are environmentalists at all.
No. Well, you have 2 kinds of so-called environmentalists. You have some tree people who I noticed as mayor who know that they'll work with you if there's sick trees or trees that need to be relocated, or you're going to mitigate the loss by 4 to 1, 5 to 1. Heck, I created under my administrations, we created the tree programs that we have here today. And I'm all for adding more trees. But then you have the other side is they're only in favor of that one tree because it's in the way of something that they don't want built. And it's an important distinction because a true environmentalist is going to recognize that we've got to do things differently today. And, we've got to build toward the transit corridor. Ideally it'd be great if we all lived vertical and had just jungle around us. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Wouldn't that be peaceful?
I don't want to live next to my neighbors.
Maybe they don't want to live next to you.
Honestly, I'm okay.
I just think living vertically now. They say New York actually to some degree is very green when you think about it because.
Well, they have parks. They certainly have parks.
They have parks, and parks are important. Things like 22 acres. I know of an important park.
I can assure you right now that our Palmetto Bay's current council is not the most environmentally friendly people.
Well, we won an environmental award for our downtown district. And when you think about it, everybody wants a walkable community. Well, what's going to do it? It's going to be a mixed use and going back to things the way we used to do it instead of sprawling out Kendall. I mean, keep doing the way we're doing it, and you're going to have one day West Kendall meet up with East Naples. And we can't have that. So that's why we've got to do things differently. But when you have this false narrative going around that we can totally stop development and that you don't have any developmental rights other than that granted by a council, and if the council grants those rights, it's obviously because of corruption, you've got problems. And I think that's why the current council can't get through a zoning hearing.
Well, I have on here on my list to talk to you about, it says apartments. New zoning code will kill a village. No transparency. So, I mean, we can talk about that. I've talked about this on the program. You probably talked about it on the program. Ed Silva's talked about the program where they went from 3,000 apartments that were approved, the old DUV, to now 6,500 apartments. And you see some of the ramifications of that occurring right now.
Well, I have the video somewhere where during John DuBois' re-election campaign, he was explaining, it was a very good explanation, that there was probably only going to be about a 2,500 build out of the downtown under that existing code. And let's remember that code was an award-winning code for sustainability, creating walkable, and it's just been obliterated. And I say that because you look at what's going on. We all voted for the project at the shores. Karen voted for it. You voted
Karen's
for it.
vote. Mayor Cunningham has voted for every single apartment complex that has been presented to the village of Palmetto Bay. My belief is, because I can't think of one apartment complex that she has not voted for.
Well,
and by the way, a lot of those developers have given contributions to her election campaign.
I can remember one that I didn't vote for, and it wasn't just one of these. I waited to the end and voted in opposition. If you recall, I was on the short end of a 4-1 vote of that project that's now going on 174th Street. And you can still go to the Miami Herald and find the article online. I didn't just vote no on it. I advocated hard against it. I knew it wasn't going to be good for the neighborhood. It was bringing things outside of and changing a character of an entire neighborhood. And what's sad about that, I mean, Cunningham voted for it. Everybody supported it. I was very much against it. And we all had a very good laugh when they got up and their traffic study person said, well, only 6% of the people are going to turn right and go east on 174 to 87th Avenue. That was the greatest bit of fiction ever.
No, I mean, there's too many apartments, and we'll get into this because it's Earth Day, right? They had a chance to redo the DUV code, make it walkable, okay, make it entertainment friendly, maybe have some assisted living facility apartments there, maybe have some townhouses, maybe have some office buildings. I mean, have it where there is still some green space there, but it's not. It's more than apartments. Well, and they had no vision at all. Spent 10. I mean, you were by then you were gone. We attended 12 meetings, okay, to talk about this. And I kept saying, you guys, I'm not voting for this because you're stuffing a sardine can with 6,500 apartments. I mean, it's going to destroy the village of Palmetto Bay. And they all claimed victory when it got voted on. It was 4-1. I voted against, and they all claimed victory. And meanwhile, we're going to have nothing but apartments all over the place in that between 168th and 184th Street, and on US 1. It's just going to absolutely bring more traffic and destroy District 3. But right now, they don't care about District 3.
Well, let's talk about that, because you had two people get elected in the most recent election that have been trained in the field of law. So you would think that they would bring that vision to the area, but it's been disappointing. You haven't seen it come forward there. I'm very disappointed. I did have some hopes on that, but it's not being realized. But a couple things stand out on that. Number one, remember this same council, and when they blame everything Ed did that he really didn't do on me when I was manager, it's funny how now the shoe's on the other foot and you don't hear that same theory of responsibility. In fact, there's a theory of avoidance going on now. And you had then the staff coming forward and saying, this developer wants to stage in Palmetto Bay Park, wants to roll over and destroy the basketball courts and put a road in, and the skate park, but he's going to add landscaping. The developer is going to redevelop those amenities afterwards, which quite frankly I didn't believe, because I don't think many people in this village want to see a skate park and basketball courts in that area. But fortunately, that was brought up before the administration, but darn well that you talk to administration beforehand. And there's a lot of times you tell the administration, don't you dare bring this forward. I don't think you're going to get any support on this. Yet it came forward. Thankfully, the people rose up, shot it down. But what's happened instead? Now, instead of getting all those things, this village has given the developer complete control of 174th Street. It's blocked off. find a new method. So you've got people now with new traffic going through their streets that didn't have it before because 174th is no longer usable. I've had people ask me about that. I'm sure we've shut down some roads, but those temporary things when you have a crane coming in or other things. But to give it to them, the stage on like this with, that's the level of negotiation going on. Instead of negotiating for the park and to let them do that, they said no. But now they just give them the front side, the street, and we get nothing for it. It's a crying shame.
Listen, the new code, I didn't agree with the old code. The new code destroys Palmetto Bay, so I don't agree with it. There used to be some benefit where the developers could give money for the parks and stuff like that. I don't think that's in the new code anymore. It's just going to be, like I said, we're apartment friendly in Palmetto Bay. So if you want to build some apartments, come on in, because we only have about 4,500 left that you can build. I mean, it's absolutely insane. It's insane what they passed.
Well, let's look at a couple things here. We recently had a caustic email go out that pointed fingers at me and somebody else I saw on social media say that this current council is dealing with the code that they were left. Well, first of all, Karen voted for the DUV in 2015. I don't know.
No, she absolutely did.
I don't understand how.
But by the way, that's the code. That code right there was the reason. And you got a text message from me. That code right there was the reason that I ran for the council. I said, you guys cannot do this.
It's funny. You and I really not.
Yeah. Because I was so upset about that
once
code.
You got to that council, we really worked together well, and I think we did some good things. And we don't agree, and we are quite blunt to each other quite often. But we find common ground, and I wish this council would do that with some of the people out there. But let me get back to something, and I want to answer some of that bile that's been sent out through some of those emails. Number one, and maybe the bird here can help me with it, because I kind of liken it to being a baseball pitcher. When I left the mound in 2018, there were no runners chargeable to me on that apartment building on 168th and near US 1, and we can tell you why. Remember, we started work on the DUV rewrite before I left office. Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
All right, and we had a moratorium in place as well as a zip.
I brought a moratorium. Everybody voted for it for 2 years, and it lapsed because.
Well, it lapsed after I left.
I left, correct.
So we had a zip, we had a moratorium. What we didn't have was anybody to keep their eye on the ball after you left and I left, because that application did not even go in until almost a year after I left. So that application only went in under the DUV because somebody fumbled. I guess I'll leave baseball now, or I guess we can call it an error. But or if you want to use football, if that's your game, fumbled it and let it go. But what should have happened is they had 10 meetings. I read the transmittal when the code was written and sent off in its final form in February of 2020. We're pleased to transmit this is done after 10 public meetings involving the public, stakeholders, homeowners. All the same people said 3 different ways. Well, you know what? It turns out they weren't really done, because they didn't, when that was done in February of 2020, when they transmitted it, they knew that application was in there in in October of 2019, yet they never once said, let's take a look at what's going to go on here. But let's look what's happened. That's not a mixed use walkable project, is it?
Nope.
That is a walk up, closed off apartments. And even if you look at the renderings, they don't exactly have Lamborghinis in the parking lot, do they? Have you noticed that? That will work well toward affordable housing, maybe workforce housing, things that really make a lot of people rich, but that each community does in fact need. You do need a certain amount of, and it will be close to the 168th transit stop. It's a bus stop. It's not a transit stop. I'm just refusing to drink that Kool-Aid, but it's not what the people wanted. Yet with all those meetings that were held after an election where people promised that there would be no development, that there would be a whole new rewrite of the code, what we found out is we're not getting the commercial that people wanted. Where's Joe B? Where's Joe B with the fact that look what happened to the project at the Shores after we left? He dismantled it because why? The entertainment center went down. It's just become, it's a great place to have your consignment shop.
It is going to be nothing. When push comes to shove, it's going to be nothing but apartments. That's what it's going to be in that area.
And it's a shame. We're going to have a vision. And I understand that we didn't have all the transit in there, but transit is coming. But if you remember the Department of Public Works and Transportation coming to some of those town hall meetings we had in Palmetto Bay, you had some of the representatives there. I won't name Frank, but he said, why would you have a transit stop there? You don't have the people for it when we were talking about taking it down. So you do need a certain amount of density. And now what's happened, and I think you are probably in a better position than me to tell people this, but what they did is they took the density from a core area. Yeah, we were going to have some 6-story buildings.
And they spread it out.
And all they did was spread it out. And nobody, and what they didn't tell people, or what they didn't realize themselves, which is probably even worse, is it's going to move from that core area into the neighborhoods. And in fact, it's even gone beyond that, because you have a few on the record committee of the whole meetings, or at least one, where they were toying with the idea. And I hope it's just toying with the idea of saying that we need to open up these houses. If you want to age in place, but now you're rattling around in a 5-bedroom house, maybe you should be allowed to take in some boarders. I can't believe my ears on that one, my eyes. It must be a mistake, but you know, that's back in the Jimmy Stewart movie age, when, you know, mom becomes a widow and they start taking in the laundry, is the way it's phrased. But are you really going to start? Didn't we have a big fight with Airbnb?
Yeah, absolutely.
Doesn't taking in boarders and leasing out rooms, doesn't that sound like Airbnb?
It's Airbnb. And it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck.
It's quacking like a duck. And it's all lined up. And so, you know, I did my part to make sure that we protected and made no changes on the residential area. And if we were going to have more density, I wanted it near the transportation center. I wanted it to where people need to move in. People don't want to move out. It's a great place if you're here, especially because of Save Our Homes Amendment. You're trapped here. Because you certainly can't move even with portability. It still dings you to some degree, but it's just it's a total lack of vision, and it's total reaction to everything.
It's definitely a lack of vision.
And what you have now is, now they're looking at this and they're going to go back. And this is funny too. Boy, everything's a stream of consciousness here. Getting back to the manager and the accusations on gross versus net. Where's the 1 acre that's missing?
Anything they do right now is going to lead probably to a Burt J. Harris action.
Yeah, but that's the whole funny thing is, you read that same zoning application for the apartment, and they talked about the fact that part of the reason they're doing this is because they take it in on the gross, but yet they don't want to admit there's a gross. They'll admit there's a gross for the apartment buildings, but not for the community center spot. So now, as a matter of reaction, the way this council is working now, instead of having a vision, using those 10 meetings to really look at everything, they had 10 meetings, and I'm going to go back and look at the minutes and see what was really done.
3 of the people that were at those meetings were completely lost. The only people that really knew what they were really doing is John Dubois and David Singer, because we had been doing it. So let's switch subjects really quick.
Oh, but I just want to make that one quick point.
Make the point and let's switch.
Is that what's happening now, as you can see, the apartment building is a great example. They pronounced themselves done in February of 2020 when they transmitted that. You now have a zoning code that doesn't match up with the comp plan, which is not good. And now you see, now they want to go back and change the law and go back and force everything off the net instead of the gross
litigation.
And that's the sad part. It's like they have something come before them they don't like. They all scurry around. And how do we legislate against this? So one person, if you better be the first one to move forward in Palmetto Bay, because they're going to close the door behind you. And I really would love to know the impact that's going to have on that charter school property that should be a community center that they haven't sold yet. How's that going to impact that? So,
okay, we're gonna hit on that parcel too. But first, I want to. Okay, so one of the things that I want to talk to you about is the misinformation campaign, which, in my opinion, can rival anything that Russia or North Carolina can put out. There is just so much misinformation that the Village of Palmetto Bay puts out on a daily basis. I'm surprised that they have not got caught with the amount of lies that they put out there. And you know, it's all coming from the same people, right? You got Shelley Stanzik, you got Gary Pastorelli, you got Bev Gerald, you got Crazy Stacy, and now you got Steve Cosey.
Stacey.
I know you do, but her nickname to me is Crazy Stacy.
Yeah, well.
And you got Cody putting out information. Now, what people don't realize is if you look at these people and you look at what they've done to the village, you have Shelley Stanzik, who was she was mayor. She fought against churches. Okay. She fought against
dogs.
She fought against dogs. Okay. And she fought against schools. Okay. You got Gary Pastorelli, who's basically sued the village twice. He sued once to stop a church from expanding. He sued again to stop a fire station from opening up. That's probably saved lots of people's lives. So you got to, and don't get me started on Bev Gerald. So you got to look, the people that are putting out this information are just not good people. And people are actually sitting there and they're digesting this stuff. And I think a small majority of people, because I talk to people, actually believe some of the stuff that they put out there. I mean, these people, in my opinion, are just they just don't know how to do anything but lie.
Well, I made a mistake in not working on correcting the information, but I spent all my time trying to move forward and be productive in my terms of office. Everything was on the village website. Remember, you even had some legislation saying you wanted stuff answered within 2 weeks. We wanted things up there. I think I was getting emails if our clerk didn't have everything up within 30 days, people were after me. But those same people seem to be given a pass.
No. This is, I had to go to court. I had to go to court to get information.
There's minutes. There's minutes and resolutions that are 700 days, not 30 days, but 700 days since they were done, and still are on the website. And now you've got these ridiculous videos circulating around. Here's an update. Watch a 4-hour video. No, I'm a fast reader. I'm not going to watch a video to figure out what's going on. I want to see it in writing. I want to see minutes. They got caught up. I think 2019's up now, but there's nothing for 2021. And I don't think there's anything right now for 2020. And it's just ridiculous. It robs people of their right to information.
It's non-transparent, which I've been talking about for 4 years.
And they rolled back everything you worked hard for when you came on. So, I mean.
Oh, they did roll back a lot of stuff. A lot of the transparency that I had passed legislation on, they've rolled back. Marsha Matson has rolled back and stuff like that. It's interesting. I mean, the whole misinformation campaign in the last couple of weeks, and luckily Dexter Leighton has really knocked it out of the park in his interview with Michael Miller, and basically said they have no idea what they're talking about on the 2 acres of land. I mean, I'm waiting for the report. They passed a resolution that said a report had to come in, okay, that discussed the 2 acres of land and whether they got the 2 acres of land or whether they got 1 acre of land. I'm waiting for that report. But in my opinion, you know what they're going to do? They're going to hide the report, because the report's going to come back and say it was 2 acres that you bought. You and I both know
it's 2 acres in Don Waters.
You and I both know that they're going to hide the report that proves that Steve Cody had no earthly clue to what he was talking about.
Well, it gets back to, you look at the public documents, and that appraisal was done at Mr. Waters' request, and it in there says it's that 0.9 acres, 9.8 acres is part of a whole 2 acre plus part of property that we bought. And they don't want to recognize that, and you go back to the resolution. I put it on my blog out there, quite frankly, if you go back and read the resolution that when it was bought, it said that, going back to the resolution itself, it said it was including school site and other road right of ways. So it was right in there in 2017. We had people argue against it because of the size of the property. It wasn't something that we hid and said that there was something different. We put out exactly what we were buying. And there was a Miami Herald article talking about how we were willing to spend the money to make sure that a school.
Yeah.
And it's just
wait. But I think Dexter, when he was on this program, and if nobody has watched it, you can log on to Facebook and see Dexter's interview with Michael Miller. I mean, number one, it was a witch hunt. I mean, do you have any doubt in your mind that what they passed, what the resolution they passed was not a witch hunt? It was like, okay, it was just BS. Okay,
it was not becoming of government. It violates, in my opinion, their own civility.
First of all, I think Ed Silva. I personally think Ed Silva should file a lawsuit against the village.
I'm not going to talk about what he's been thinking about on that, and I'm not going to speak.
I don't know if he has been thinking about it.
But you know what? Maybe they should focus less on us and what's happened.
And getting something done.
And start moving on it. Maybe if they were focused on things like their zoning and whether they were really done, they would have known this was coming for the so-called apartments.
Yeah.
Maybe they should be worried about the fact that nobody's putting forward any projects with any significant commercial, any commercial at all. Why is the Shores that everybody voted for and said it was a great project and could have been our Geralda Street eventually? Why is nobody wondering now why are we getting his apartments and no commercial? Where are we going to go? What are we going to do?
And it's not.
Why aren't there
it's like a night and day. And it's, by the way, it's a night and day between what they proposed and now what they're bringing in.
I was excited about the Shores project, and I thought it was going to be a very good thing. But what the new project is, and I think their level of commercial that they think it qualifies for commercial, is live work housing in there, which basically nowadays just means you've got a den where you go in and work. I mean, it's sad, but
we were talking about we were talking about the misinformation campaign that goes on out there.
Well,
and
how bad
let's
talk about the misinformation on that, because there was a Miami Herald article that talked about the fact that we were willing to buy it to get rid of the school site.
Oh, and also, by the way, not only that, but when we bought it, we also excluded the other side of the street against building a school.
You're welcome.
Okay.
And I say you're welcome because if you remember, they denied the charter school. They lost. This was all under the Stanzik administration that they conveniently forget about it. Then they came back with a zoning resolution, which again, I put on my blog in 2014. They approved 1,400 student seats. That was approved. Vested rights.
Yeah, if we did not buy that property, there would be 1,000 people, 1,000 students in a school right next to, for the most part, right next to the.
Then it came back and we knocked off 400, which didn't get us to where we wanted to go, but is better than 1,400. And then you worked hard on getting that property purchased, which I thought was such a great synergy for community center, and so does the community center task force. You know, we stood up. You would have thought I would have gotten some credit from this group saying, well, at least Mayor Flinn at the meeting demanded that there would be a covenant running with the land that says on the remaining 3 acres that they don't put a charter school on there. But, you know, that's just the way it's always gone with that crew, with those emails that go out from that crew. You know, back when Palmer Trinity was fighting with the village, I decided we needed to have a meeting where we just got the parties together. And I got the Save Palmetto Bay group together, and I got representatives, some of the religious members of Palmer Trinity together. And so we wanted to have a meeting where it could be done quietly. So we got in a boat and we paddled out. Well, the headmaster's hat blew off right there in the middle of the water. So I get out of the boat, walk over across the water, get his hat, bring it back for him. Do you think the community group, the Save Our Palmetto Bay, says Mayor Flynn's a good guy, Mayor Flynn tried to resolve this? No, their caustic email went out, Mayor Flynn can't swim.
Well, can you?
That's what I put up with that group. So you know.
Wait, hey, so I had done a poll in 2019 for about 5,800 voters in Palmetto Bay, and I actually brought the poll with me. And one of the questions was about building a community center, and the question was, do you support building a Palmetto Bay community center if it can be built without affecting your property taxes? 62% of the people in Palmetto Bay, it's right here, 62% of the people agreed with that question.
That they're
62%.
You know what? I will grant you one thing. A lot of people have issues with the owner of that property, but you can't choose who owns property. That's right. Okay. That connects up to. There was a reason why charter schools have always looked at that spot, because there's connectivity with the park
and US 1.
It's connective with US 1. It also connects with the village hall, the municipal center. It could have been part of, and it still could be a great center. And some of the vision we had for it. Think about this. When I was going door to door, we were talking about grandparent and me classes, mommy, daddy, and me classes, kids classes themselves. You could have just had your weed and feed karate classes there, crafts, Art South could have been there. And with that in mind too, we could have built that in a way that it would have been a hurricane shelter for those vulnerable members
all
of
a
our
community center is. You want to talk about going vertical? All community center is a park that's vertical because of all the activities that are there. Okay, so
wait.
Okay.
Wait. I'd love to interrupt people now, but going back, where
it's my show.
You know where FEMA was doing their vaccinations? Down at the Florida City Community Center down there, and their big basketball courts and everything. Why can they have that and we can't? Why can Pinecrest have that and we can't? Why is Cutler Bay,
Town of Cutler Bay, building community center,
running with our idea?
Yep.
And doing with that, with the connectivity. And it gets me to one thing. Why are we the only community now? They talk about how it's going to start getting harder to get people with their shots. I've had my shots. You've had your shots.
Oh, by the way,
including the vaccine. You've had your vaccine.
Yeah. The reason that the glass is down here and we're not wearing masks is because we both had our shots.
But going back to that, Pinecrest is opening up at Sunnyland a localized area to get shots. Cutler Bay has it in there. They're going from community to community because it's getting tougher now. They got to get into the neighborhoods and take away all the excuses. Palmetto Bay should be able to have it. Palmetto Bay should be doing it. I don't know. Look, they can ride off the agreement that Pinecrest has done the heavy lifting on. In fact, part of the attorneys we use are Weiss Sirota. I'm sure Weiss Sirota, the official village attorneys for Pinecrest, have worked out this agreement. So it's boilerplate. It's ready to go. I've looked at it. It's a good agreement. But Palmetto Bay, we're trying to get our kids back in school. School's going to open up. Let's get something open in Palmetto Bay. But it's like we don't want to do anything in Palmetto Bay but fight things. And it's really sad. Why can't we do some positive things?
I don't know. But since it's Earth Day, I also pulled this up, which you'll like this one. Okay. The second question on the survey was, do you support building a 10-foot sidewalk with taxpayer money to connect the village's walkability and bikeability from 136th Street, Old Cutler, US 1, and 184th Street?
You did not.
Yes, I did. This is actually,
when did you do that?
I did this in 2019, February 2019.
You are kidding
so
me.
Listen, so this was the 5,000, 6,000, almost 6,000 voters, okay, who answered this question. So the question, because they're going to start building 10-foot sidewalks all over Palmetto Bay, is 61% disagreed with having 10-foot sidewalks.
And out of that, how many of those were the ones that were directly in front of their property?
Okay, 37 agreed and 3% were undecided. So what you're telling me is they two different polls. I'm stuttering, right?
My stuttering.
Okay,
yeah.
two different polls. So they did it. So they negated the community center, which 62% of the people agreed that should be built out of this 5,000 or 6,000 people. And they're going to take the concrete that they were going to build in the community center and they're going to pour it all over the place, all over people's front yards for the 10-foot sidewalk.
Well,
I'm not joking.
What they don't understand is that no one's going to be able to park in their front yard anymore, their swale, unless they pull up under their window.
We've been calling it a landing field.
And the sad part of all this is after 12 years serving as mayor, I've never had somebody once tell me, I'd love to go out and walk outside, but the sidewalks are too narrow.
No, it's crazy, isn't it? I mean, it's crazy.
But
so they'll take the money.
What people don't understand, we worked hard on getting bike lanes for 136th Street. When people say, I don't like the bikes on the road. Well, first of all, by law, a bicyclist must be in the bike lane. Is unusable, and then you can only go to it only to the extent that you need to move around and negotiate the obstruction. So you actually now have a law in there, and the sad thing is a shared path. I got attacked by the bird here when I first came in about why won't they ride the Old Cutler? Well, that's a shared path. That is not a bike lane, and Florida law says it's not a bike lane unless it's specifically marked exclusively for use by the bikes. And so let's all get ready for 136th Street when people start yelling at cyclists for not using it.
That's a passing lane. Cars are going to use the 10-foot sidewalk as a passing lane. I could just
I've
imagine
got a video of it.
I could just imagine.
I've got a video on my blog where somebody had taken a video from their dash cam of a guy getting impatient. He was like 3 houses away from 152 Street heading north on Old Cutler Road.
Yeah.
And he got on the Old Cutler path and then went to go turn off to head down.
It's ridiculous. All you do, putting a 10-foot concrete path is take away green space. It's the most idiotic thing I've ever heard in my life that they want to do it. You take away trees and green space.
You know what?
And they're celebrating. And by the way, the mayor sent out an Earth Day email today, probably or whatever. And I don't understand how she can be celebrating Earth Day when she's going to put concrete all over Palmetto Bay.
Destroyed walkable, sustainable
Yeah.
development. Changed it to just apartments. Got rid of the amenities. There's no plan going on now for anything. I mean, like I said, I hope that two people trained in the law and the analysis of law would be able to be a help to the other 3, which quite frankly just seem to be only reactive in what they do. We don't like this, let's write it out. And without realizing the consequence and the fact that we're always in redevelopment of our code. Oh, by the way, while we're here, and this is very relevant, I brought you a gift today. I was on the phone with somebody who was interviewing me for a school project, a college project as first mayor, and wanted to talk to me specifically about sustainability in and the efforts that we made. Because again, under my leadership, we became a Tree City USA. We put aside a lot of parkland. We became certified. We're a certified city. We had certified on our DUV code. But I want to present this to you.
Oh, God.
I want to present this to you.
Did you get that in Palmetto Bay?
This person challenged me why we don't have a rule against plastic straws.
We do. The village has never. When I was in there.
Would you unwrap that for me, please, and tell me?
I don't want to unwrap this. So
that
much to a lot of people. Yes, much to a lot of people.
Do you recognize that straw, by the way? That was picked up here in Palmetto Bay today because I had to get in my car and I had to go see that it was true.
Oh no. Okay, so let's tell them where this came from. So when I was on the council, I do not particularly like plastic straws. So we passed, an ordinance that there would be no plastic straws starting. I guess it was January of 2020. They've never followed up on it. And every place you go in Palmetto Bay, they have plastic straws.
I think there's one place, but they did it on their own. To much pomp and circumstance. Look at us, how
but
special
every restaurant has plastic straws.
But that's the point. This council seems to pass a lot of laws. Like they recently passed a resolution to allow golf carts on the cart paths.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm already calling them cart path.
Yeah,
it's a shared path. And by the way, I love golf carts. Paul Neidhart and I were, I think he was the first to mention it, and I was the first to second it. And I'm a big fan of golf carts, but there's a lot of things that this village could be doing that we started doing with Larissa at the beginning. As far as bringing down speed limits that would give us different control and the ability to allow golf carts on the streets by adjusting the speed limits. And instead, but you know what I haven't heard? I haven't heard of the TPO or anybody meeting on that resolution. I wonder if that resolution was actually even...
somebody should call TPO and see if they got that resolution.
Transmitted. Because again, if you go back and I went back and I looked at the Muni Code. Was this a case where a law was passed and it wasn't submitted to be codified and out there with the Muni Code? Yes, the straw ban was passed. And it says that the first thing they're going to do is a huge educational campaign. It's right there on Muni Code. I've yet to see that campaign.
No, I mean, if you go to Pinecrest, but I based my ordinance on what Pinecrest had done. I thought it was time. I, read a bunch of information about how the plastic that 98% of the plastic that's been used since the 1940s or whatever is still out there and still in trash dumps and stuff like that. And I thought it would be very easy to use. I mean, they've come up with all different kind of straws now. They've come up with bamboo straws and any kind of biodegradable straw they've come up with, and some of them are okay and some of them not. I don't particularly use straws. I just drink off the glass.
One thing I'm not a fan of, and I'm not pro-development. I'm not anti-development. I am pro creating reasonable rules and following them, and don't create a rule that you're not going to enforce because you just contribute to the culture of ignoring authority.
Absolutely.
So here's a prime example. Here's a prime example. No follow-up.
Wait. Same thing with the rule that they're supposed to have trees in parking lots that we passed, that and they've never followed up on if they're missing a tree and the tree was on their original plans. They had to replant the tree instead of just having green, just having a dirt hole there. They've never followed up on that either.
I remember working with then Vice Mayor John Dubois on a tree ordinance.
Yeah.
You remember that? So we have worked on. Even today, I'm very proud of our Tree City USA. But if you go out to the new bridge, and it's really funny, you tree board members, I'm embarrassed for you all. How did you permit the city? I remember when a couple of the tree board members got upset because in the South Motors, which is going to be our future Veterans Park area, they had pushed peat rock in that, or temporarily paved around some of the pine trees in their drip zones. Go look off the one exit toward 152 Street. You'll find that they paved around a couple of the oak trees, paved around it for the walking path. Within 2 to 3 feet of it, it's certainly within the drip line. That tree's going to get strangled.
Yes.
How can we call ourselves a Tree City USA when we do things that are counterproductive? And, the tree is not going to die today or tomorrow or within the terms of any of these current people, but it will eventually strangle and die. And it's just, here on this Earth Day, I think it's very sad to see things like that. Look, if you don't like plastic straw law, let's get rid of the law, but don't have a law. Or
do me a favor, bring a plastic straw. You can reuse the plastic straw. We got to hit some of these. Okay, so Jerry Johnson, how you doing? No, I did not buy Mayor Flynn a T-shirt. Mary, hi, how you doing? Bob, how you doing? Tom, why won't Gary or Shelley come on your show to back their words against you? Because they'd lose, okay? Because they wouldn't be able, because liars get caught.
Golden Rule does have biodegradable straws, and that was the one area that said that they voluntarily did it.
Yeah.
And kudos to them. But, the law is needed when you can go to any other restaurant and get your plastic straws.
So let's jump to the next thing, the police force. Okay, we still don't have.
Love those guys and gals.
Guys are great, right? Guys and girls. So we still do not have the amount of police, okay, working for the Village of Palmetto Bay that the budget calls for. It came out in Monday night's meeting, I believe, or Tuesday night's meeting, that we're still short 2 to 3 police officers.
Well, it's great for some because you make a boatload.
I know,
of overtime.
that's what I was saying.
Make a boatload of overtime.
You make a lot of overtime, and it costs the residents a lot of money. So why have they not? Okay, since Mayor Cunningham said, well, no, we're not getting rid of police. Okay.
Well, there's 2 ways to do it. Don't
why have we not hired 2 or 3 new police officers to work in the Village of Palmetto Bay? She specifically has come out and she specifically sent out emails and everything else saying, no, we're not getting rid of police officers. Okay. But if you're not going to hire them to replace them, you are de facto gotten rid of police officers. And overtime is overtime is time and a half.
It's not efficient expenditure of money for the taxpayers.
So if you have, I said this the other day, if you have a police officer making $150,000 a year, time and a half, they're making $225,000 a year. Okay, and it's costing taxpayers money. Why has the village not hired new police officers to fill the gaps?
Oh, the sad thing is, it's not like Miami-Dade County won't send them to us. And the most disappointing thing about our county-wide deal is that everybody else hasn't copied it. And to see Doral go the other way, I think Miami Lakes, Cutler Bay, and Palmetto Bay are the only 3 sticking with this model, and it's more the Broward model, and I think it's a great thing. We've got the best police department and as much as we want of it. And the communication back and forth, the cohesiveness with the specialized. We've had people leave Palmetto Bay and then come back at different ranks, or just need to take a break and go do some Marine patrol and come back, or go do a specialized task force and come back. I mean, it's just so
and by the way, crime has increased in Palmetto Bay. I don't think that's I truly believe, okay, and I'd like to see somebody confirm or deny it, that crime has increased, because every day you pick up, Facebook or something and you see crime has increased. But
I don't know. I hear sirens a lot, and I don't know if they're heading to a crime, an accident, or if there's a drive-by birthday party going on.
That's right. There are a lot of
cake.
a lot of drive-by birthday.
I get hungry for cake when I hear
when you don't have. Yeah. That's terrible. Anyway, Eric Buchanan, it says the resolution was to buy the eastern 2 acres. We didn't get the easternmost 2 acres.
I'm still waiting.
Absolutely incorrect.
I'm starting to get some pretty good.
He's absolutely incorrect.
Go read your deed. Go read your deed.
Go.
Hey, you know
learn,
what, Eric?
Learn how to read a deed.
Come meet with me. Come meet with me live, because I don't seem to see you. You moved here from South Carolina, but I don't seem to see you on the voters' rolls. You seem to know a lot lot me.
No, it's not a real person.
No. But come meet with
Eric
me.
Eric is not a real person. I completely researched it.
No,
Eric has no idea.
Eric has
whoever is playing Eric, he has absolutely no idea what he's talking about.
He does have an idea of what he's talking about. He's just trying to divert. He or she is just trying to divert our attention.
It's all
on my blog. Take a look, Eric. And anytime you want to meet with me, I've always been in the phone book. It was the greatest thing. People always paid to have like unlisted numbers back during the day. I never paid, because nobody even looks people up anymore, because they just assume everybody's unlisted.
What's funny is apparently Eric and the rest of the council don't know how to read a deed either, because Cody went to law school. He didn't know how to read a deed. Leanne went to law school. She didn't know how to read a deed. We know that, the rest of the council doesn't know how to read a deed. They just don't know how to read a deed.
Read
the deed.
Read the appraisal report that Waters hired, because it talks about that he was hired to only do that one section of the entire 2+ acres in there. And,
it's all nonsense. It's all smoke and mirrors, because they have done nothing. They have done nothing positive.
Spend a little less time on that. Spend a little less time on it, and spend a little more on looking out for things that are coming up in the future, because they're tripping all over there. I'm not even going to say what they're tripping over. They're tripping over when they come up on zoning hearings, because they're not prepared. They don't listen to staff. And what's really funny is poor staff. I feel so bad.
No, and staff's miserable. I have inroads with staff. Staff is absolutely miserable. If you care about the Village of Palmetto Bay employees, you should feel bad for them, because they are absolutely 100%. Let's talk about the council, or the Mayor Cunningham claimed victory over Luxcom this week. You saw the emails?
And I also saw on some of the social media. Why weren't we talking about it? First of all, the most recent victory was a motion for rehearing en banc had been denied, which is expected. Appellate courts don't usually throw darts and say, you know what, we were just joking. We're going to actually reverse things. Now, sometimes in an en banc matter, they'll do it. But you want to talk about the top 0.5% type thing. That doesn't happen. They usually make very well thought out decisions. So the real victory on that happened in March. I don't remember the exact date, March 6th, March 16th, whenever it was, that they came out and they denied that. And that was one thing Dexter and I had talked about very early on, because you remember this 1 acre started under my last administration, and Dexter and I sat down and game planned a lot of this, and Dexter has followed it, and Dexter deserves the credit for this. He's really stayed the course on it, and he's very aggressive on this. But
those 2 lawsuits.
But that's one lawsuit.
Yeah,
that's
those two lawsuits. I think 1 or 2 lawsuits right now have been, out of 3 have been settled, right? And those were the nuisance suits, right? Those were to sit there and say to Palmetto Bay, okay, we're going to get you to spend some of your tax dollars, prematurely before the real lawsuit comes. And apparently Palmetto Bay has insurance for this, but the insurance only covers $300,000.
That all
okay,
that's all. I thought it was $5 million.
No, it's all $300,000, and they've probably gone through that $300,000 in attorney's fees already. So,
well, damages are different from fees half the time, but you got to look at this. This is like a baseball game, and right now we're in the 5th inning. There's still the actual Burt J. Harris, which I personally think is a very defensible lawsuit. Okay. They haven't won yet, and nothing. It's so long as we got Dexter on the mound.
I don't know. I don't think Dexter's.
But that's the problem.
I don't think Dexter's working on it.
How many times have you seen? How many times have you seen the pitcher go out of a game, and they jump all over the middle reliever or the relief pitcher, Isn't that what do they call that bird? What do they call
the
that?
closer?
A blown
Save?
a blown save where they walk out of there and they and the reliever gets tagged at the loss because the starting pitcher had everything well under control, but for some reason the pitcher had to leave
it's a $22 million lawsuit. Okay. And this is part of a email that
they need something to feel good about because obviously their coterie right hasn't turned out the way they wanted to do.
So they haven't had anyone.
Obviously they don't enforce simple rules like plastic straws. We don't have a vaccine center in Palmetto Bay. And they're so desperate to try to get people to use the freebie that they're talking about trying to use what's that model Teslas now, because they think people get into a Tesla instead of the golf cart type vehicles. So I don't take away their one thing that they've got going this week.
Okay, so but let me tell you something. So community newspapers got an email today from, I believe it's the attorney for LuxCom. Michael Miller shared this with me. So let me read just 3 real quick paragraphs. It says, this past Tuesday, April 20th, the village released a statement via email claiming they have reached the final chapter of the litigation process. That was in quotes with LuxCom. The village council was quoted as saying, "People, it's over. The residents of Palmetto Bay should not allow those in power and control of the village to pull the wool over their eyes any further than they have already during the past 2 years. The residents are being misled as the litigation process, in the village's own words, has just begun." Okay, the litigation. Okay, first of all, the village attorney, if he actually said, "People, it's over," should be fired immediately. John Della Gloria should be fired and terminated tomorrow if that's what he told people. Honestly, in my opinion, because the third lawsuit is the Burt J. Harris, and that's the one where they're looking for $22 million. That's the big one. Okay. It also says in here that says, now that the appellate proceedings have been concluded, LuxCom can now finally move forward with a $21 million plus claim for damages against the village in its pending Burt Harris lawsuit. Unlike appeals, where the legal standards of review was extremely differential to the village, now the village stands as much more even playing field with LuxCom in a Burt J. Harris lawsuit, and LuxCom looks forward to engaging in substantial discovery, including depositions of all council members to expose the depths of the village misconduct.
Well, to be fair, they had, they go to the football metaphor at this point. They had a really crappy first half, and they're happy. They're happy it's over, and they're hoping to regroup, and that they're going to come out on fire the second half. I haven't seen it yet. So I've looked at that lawsuit. I've got like a personal little bet with, my wife looking at this. There's multiple counts in there, and I'm not going to sit there. This is not a joke. This is a real lawsuit that has real ramifications in there, but I think it's coming up for hearing on May 17th is a motion to dismiss, and not all those counts are going to survive a motion
I don't think. Listen, I don't know whether
not all are going to survive. Some they will be dismissed and amended, and then they might be Second Amendment or Third Amendment. Some may be the motion to dismiss denied and will proceed forward. But you don't ask for anybody. But any attorney is going to say, you're a fool to sit there and declare victory. The only time a case sometimes is over is after
look who's declared victory. Mayor Cunningham, the village attorney John Del Gloria, if that's actually correct, what they wrote on there. Okay, Steve Cody, who I'm surprised he's even declaring victory, since he knows much about the law as any disbarred attorney. Or I'm sorry, not disbarred. What do they call when you lose your license? He's not disbarred. He's whatever. They took his license away. So I mean, what they should be telling the residents is, we basically won 2 rounds. We got a third round to go, and the third round is the most important.
I just hope Dexter's continuing on with the case, because he's done some great work. Dexter has done some great work. He's done great work on the charter school. He's done great work on the community center. He's done great work on everything we've asked of him. He has been an excellent attorney. He was not the attorney I hired in my first 2 terms, and when I came back, he was the person in that chair. And I worked with him, and he and I worked very well together, even though there's some initial differences in there. And I hope he continues on because, again, I don't think it's time to pull the main pitcher.
I think it's a done deal.
I think it's a great job that he's done right now, and he's got their number.
I do not think Dexter is the attorney on record for the third lawsuit.
Well, say it isn't so. Black Sox? Say it ain't so, Joe?
Yeah. So anyway, so the next one is, what's the deal with village finances? We either have a deficit or not. When will the residents be told?
Well, if you can't read a deed, how can you read a budget?
I mean, seriously. I mean, one day they say we're going to have $1.5 million deficit. The next day they say we're going to be in the black, $500,000. How does that fluctuate like that? I'm a CPA. I don't know how that fluctuates.
All I know is there's like $10 million coming in from the feds for stimulus money for all this. And I'm thinking to myself, why is Palmetto Bay the only city that's waiting for the so-called rules? When have they ever let rules stop them? Or when have they ever enforced rules?
Yeah, enforced rules.
But going back to this thing is, oh my God, what an opportunity. With that, I hope they do something productive with this money in real capital projects. Pinecrest is already talking about something that they've been stymied on for many years. They couldn't get a bond passed to put water in a lot of areas. They're going to use this money, or they plan to use this money for water. I think we need to be planning.
Oh, we need an oversight. The Village of Palmetto needs an oversight committee for the money we get.
Who they would pick for the oversight committee.
So because
it's just, it's the same thing. But getting back to that, there is such an opportunity here to take this money, work with Miami-Dade County, and do something it's Earth Day, people, and let's think environmentally friendly. Let's take that money and get the septic tanks, bring sewer out those areas, get these people hooked up, and save our environment. We're right here on the coast, runoff, bad.
Wait, let's save the 22 acres. Why can't we buy those 22 acres?
By the way, if you buy the 22 acres, I tried to buy that 3 times.
Why can't we?
3 times I tried to buy it.
I only have to pay 50% of it.
I even got it on the B. No, better than that. Working with the Palmetto Bay Village Center at the beginning, we got it on the B list. We couldn't get it on the A list. B list means the municipality has to put 50% up of it. It was just slightly over $6 million back then, I believe. And we were working with Scott Silver back then, where we were working on with then state rep Julio Urbana, if I remember correctly, where we were lined up to get a $1.8 million grant to buy that. So we would have bought that for slightly less than 25%. We would have bought that. And you know what goes away with the purchase? We would have purchased that with the developmental rights. Now, some people would say it's 22 acres. Some say, when you take away the right-of-ways, it's only 18. What happened to it?
No, I mean, that would be the first thing.
Maybe the
honestly, I got to tell you something. Honestly, that would be one of the first. If I was there, one of the first things I do is try to buy those 22 acres.
I think he's telling us to read between the lines.
What's that say? 3 million?
3 minutes.
3 minutes. Okay. No. No, that's what I would do. I mean, and the EEL money would come in.
Money, but EEL money it's a finite unless the county can use some of their county stimulus money to replenish it. But Cutler Bay again has gotten into our playbook. Well, actually, our playbook it's not ours. It's an environmentalist playbook that at one time we were using. Are going to use that for the 9 acres that they're going to buy. Which, by the way, I'm very pleased to see them do that because. I fought hard alongside with then Commissioner Sorensen and Mayor Vrooman and a lot of our residents to get South Florida Water Management to get the money up to buy the original 27 acres at Cutler Bay. I'm so jealous how they're putting that environmental center. I don't want to see the rubber chicken.
Come on, dude. This is the rubber chicken. This is the chicken shit award. I have to do the chicken shit award, and the chicken shit award this week. It was very easy. I challenged.
Go to Eric Bauman.
I challenged
or whatever his name is.
I challenged the village council, any member of the village council, to come on this program and debate me. Any of them to come on and debate me on what's going on in the village, and not one of them would come in and debate me. Not only that, I'll lay out a challenge for Shelley Stanzik, to come in here and debate me on what's going on in the village. or
I
her little.
why they keep putting out that one of the reasons why the current council is hamstrung and with their arm behind the back and have to give in on the 22 acres is because of the that we're going to lose the parking for the library. When I've explained and even put it on my blog, Shelley was one of the people that voted for the 99-year lease that we have that allows us to have the parking is far longer than any of us. Well, I plan on being along.
You're not going to be along that life.
I'll be in a fishbowl.
Okay, so here, this is the chicken shit award. Okay, I am challenging Shelley to come in, Gary Pastorelli, Bev Gerald, any of those, plus the council. Okay,
bring your straws.
The mayor or the council to come in and debate me on anything that's going on in Palmetto Bay. Okay, so anytime they want, they got my email address. Just send me an email.
Unfortunately, a lot of times the council acts. They put their venom through their straw men or women. And unfortunately, in Palmetto Bay, due to lack of enforcing their own laws, those straws are still plastic.
That's right. Okay, get out of here. Okay, thank you for everybody for watching.
Music.
Hey, next week, I may actually have some people to talk about the falls and the cats. Yeah, cats and the falls on here for an hour. So join us next week at 4 o'clock Thursday with Gloves Off with David Singer. Thank you very much.
Hopefully you won't pussyfoot around on that one.
Thank you very much for coming in today. Don't forget, Chicken Shit Award goes to anybody who won't debate me.